if your retention problem starts before day one? In 2026, top performers aren't leaving because of pay. They're leaving because they were mishired in the first place. So welcome to the People Strategy Forum, where we challenge outdated people practices and replace them with what actually works. I'm Sam Reeve, your host and CEO of CompTeam, where we help organizations design people-centered total reward systems that attract, retain, and motivate top performers. Today's topic is resumes are garbage. Why AI-driven behavioral fit is now the key to retaining your top performers. And our guest today, the very special guest today, Jason Carroll, founder of Aptive Index. Jason has spent years helping organizations move beyond static resumes and gut feel hiring towards behavioral intelligence using AI to understand how people work, collaborate, decide, and adapt. So if you're tired of hiring great resumes only to get regretted attrition, this conversation will reframe how you think about talent and grow up to a new system that's going to really take charge and work with some of the latest technologies. So let's welcome Jason Carroll. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And so as we, I know that this is, like a lot of software platforms over the past few years, they're just popping up everywhere because of the new AI is really taking hold. And so can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this space and what you're trying to solve?
Well, it all started from me experiencing the same problems that all of your listeners are. I've been in this seat. In my last gig, I scaled a company from 20 million to 80, and then we sold. And then in that kind of scaling, every single business problem was a people problem. And you're just putting the wrong people in the wrong seats, not knowing how to lead and motivate, not even understanding my own shortcomings. In my own journey of self-awareness and understanding others better, I discovered psychometrics and this idea of objectively measuring motivator traits, drivers, needs of humans, the ones that actually can predict certain outcomes. And so I was actually, in that role, I was a client of multiple psychometric platforms and was more than mildly obsessed because just so many light bulbs went off for me, and it changed the game. And so post-exit, I wanted to be in this world. And lucky for me, it's a very stale world that's in the Stone Age and had a lot of opportunity for being disrupted.
And Jason, this your tool is more than just about hiring, right? I mean, this is really getting to know your people at a deeper level. Is that true?
It is. Hiring is the clearest, easiest ROI to realize, right? Because we all know how much a bad hire costs. And really, I originally built the tool to be a hiring tool. It's surprised me more than anybody to see that now it's about 30% of what our clients use it for. They've expanded how they utilize this platform because of the way the AI plays into it to like make a strategic use out of the behavioral assessment data. It's not just being used once and then collecting dust. Clients are using it every day.
Yeah, so we're going to dive into the different ways that you can use the information, but it's true. Hiring is the big problem for a lot of organizations. I mean, I think it was Harvard Business Review found that 80% of employee turnover is due to bad hiring decisions. And if you think that if that's happening in your organization, I mean, that turnover is super expensive. And I know that there's a lot of different types of statistics depending on the level of the person, but turnover can cost quite a lot. When you in your experience, Jason, I mean, how do you see turnover rates change with these types of psychometric tools?
Yeah, I mean, it goes down significantly. I mean, every book we read, every operating system, whether it's like Peak OS, Pinnacle, EOS, things like that, the businesses that are familiar with those, they all talk about right people, right seats. We know how paramount that is. And when you have the right person doing the right things in the right role, they just don't turn over, right? Because now all you have to do is stick to your values and pay them well. But when it's the wrong person in the wrong seat, there's too many misfires. You've got people butting heads, people stretching and burning out way too quickly, mistakes being made, and we've all seen it dozens of times.
Yes, and so these psychometric tools can really help us understand what makes our people tick, basically. And how are you seeing businesses use this beyond hiring? What are the different areas where they're using these psychometrics to really enhance the workforce?
Gosh, I mean, let me count the waves. I know you and I chatted before we hit record, and some of those things come to mind. We've got sports teams using this, like Division I, and even people that were in the WNBA, that were coaches for the NBA. So skills only get you so far. Even in sports where performance is everything, there's that mental and emotional game, that fortitude, resilience. How do you bounce back if you airball it or whatever else? And understanding people's motivating needs and how they respond to adversity helps you better motivate, coach, engage, and all that. So that's one major way. And I'm talking about sports, but that applies everywhere, right? We have people that they get down on themselves more than we get down on them when they screw up. Well, how do we get that person to bounce back? How do we get them re-engaged? Or they screwed up and they don't even know it. How do we tell them that in a way that is constructive? Actually, I was just out in the hallway here in my office. It's a big co-working space. But I have hallmates that have actually become clients. This guy, Nick, was just telling me that he had to have a define the relationship moment with one of his leadership team members. And he's like, the first thing I thought of was to go and look at the behavioral data and talk to Aria. Aria is our AI. Conflict resolution is a big one. So, a guy here also in Austin who's a CEO and a client of ours, he's like, I had two people fighting on the team and I tried everything I knew and nothing would work. I was like, oh yeah, I should ask Aria because Aria has all their behavioral data. And she gave like a guide and just said, follow this step 1 through 5. And he did. And he's like, I felt like a magic wand waved over them. Like, I don't even understand how it knew exactly how to get these two people out of that kind of conflict cycle that they were in. Team building is a big, obvious one. And then, the clients who know that they can use it creatively are using it to improve their marriages and dating life. I've got a couple, actually, the husband and wife both swear that Aria saved their marriage. I mean, not mincing words, like not, that's not what I built this thing for at all, but heck yeah, man. Like, I love hearing these stories day in and day out. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think it's a true test of a new tool when an innovator like yourself builds something and it's like suddenly it's like, oh, geez, it has a lot of different applications I didn't think about before. We were just looking at this one set, but now it can do this. So that can be really exciting for sure. So I'm glad that you've made those discoveries. So as you think about, your Aria is the AI that you developed in your tool. And you're finding that it's people are working with Aria to assist with, just team dynamics and teaming overall, and really finding out what people are really passionate about. And you can, is it true that is there any context? Well, I imagine there's some context with of course that would not be appropriate to ask Aria, and she would probably respond back saying, "Hey, well, that's a guardrail." Is that right?
Yeah, it's tough to make AI have those guardrails. I mean, like if you use ChatGPT, it's going to please the user. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if I'm like, oh, I'm politically left or right, and here's my opinion, back it up. Of course, it's going to, right? And I just yesterday I was having this demo, and I got asked the exact same question by a potential client. And so as I was in this chat, and I pulled up my wife's assessment results and said, Aria, give me just a quick romantic cheat sheet. And it talked about our difference in emotion. And I said to Aria something along the lines of like, help me point out, how, messy it is or how wrong she is when she gets all emotional like this. And it put like a big red stop sign emoji and like heading one font and said, hold up, Jason, this is a massive blind spot and this is about you, not her. And the prospect was like, send me the contract. It was so cool to be able to build those guardrails. And look, people are going to figure out how to manipulate it. That's just human nature and it's AI's limitation. But we have built quite a few of those potential scenarios in to try and prevent manipulation.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll find out new ones as they come along. But when we think about those, when organizations are thinking about implementing an AI tool that really knows your people, that can understand their behaviors, like like you're mentioning, and also help the leaders find ways to better connect with their people. What are the watch outs that you've found that you should, that people should, or leaders should be concerned about?
I think it's just always remembering it's one leg of the stool. You mentioned, the podcast title, like resumes are garbage. Unfortunately, resumes are still that's one leg of the stool. What skills and experience do these people bring? And then we try to find out everything else, like what's their emotional intelligence? What's their, how much of a culture fit are they? And then this behavioral assessment data is another leg of the stool. And to be clear, to clarify, like the assessment is not founded on or scored by AI at all. And so the AI is like a coach that comes in after and has been trained on all that assessment data. So we don't have to worry about AI hallucinations on that piece. But even still, like, is my assessment perfect? Of course not. Do people figure out how to game it? Sometimes. And even if it's perfectly accurate, and there are some behavioral misalignments from what we might deem as the ideal target for a certain role or position, does that not mean that, or does that mean that somebody can't still be successful? No, of course they still can be. And so not abusing something like this, even just completely separate from the AI, humans are still humans, and we're complex, and neuroplasticity is a thing, and we're very capable, and we can stretch and flex outside of our own hardwiring in really profound ways. So we don't want to use it to discriminate in any form or fashion.
Yeah, and I imagine there's times where, and you have to, like for instance, a lot of organizations are saying, we need to have a human in the loop in these particular areas to ensure that, we don't want people the AI to make the hiring decision, right? Or to say who should get a promotion, things like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's certain aspects where you have to be in the training that you provide leaders on the tool. Are these aspects covered?
Yeah, for sure. We also have the policies that people have to agree to, and some of the things that protect us and our clients in case they have employees that go off the rails. But yeah, and the good thing is so far, we haven't seen anybody misusing it. We haven't seen anybody implementing their own nefarious motives. So hopefully we don't have to worry about it a whole lot, and when it does happen, we can catch it and remediate it.
What about certain locations? Are there certain areas in the world where these tools there's just regulation against it, or they're not ready for this type of solution?
I haven't seen that yet. I mean, we already have a client in Guernsey Islands, which is like one of those, what do they call those islands right outside of the UK, where, I mean, if you think the EU has strict restrictions and policies. Guernsey Islands takes that to the next level, and yet they're using it. I mean, heck, it's been used in their parliament, of all things. So, yeah, I mean, people are pretty open to it because it's not making the decision. It's just information. It's objective information, which is helpful, but there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. You can't pass or fail the assessment itself. And so, it really, if bias is introduced as a result, it's because the human using it is biased to begin with, not because the tool or the assessment data did anything that was biased.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what about, does the tool take in consideration and gender and ethnicity, things like this?
So as you're taking it, we have no idea what your age, gender, ethnicity is. But during the validation studies that we did, we were collecting that data. We had paid participants, and we did 6 validation rounds, because one of the things that you have to prove to be EEOC compliant here in the States for pre-hire, you have to prove that there aren't biases. Right? And so we did that. You can look at the data tables and see that there's no correlation on any of our 8 attributes around any of those protected classes, somebody's ethnicity or age, or you can't look at a result and have any idea if it's a man or a woman, or how old they are, or anything like that.
Okay. So you mentioned 8 attributes. I mean, what are those attributes?
We have 4 that we would call conative, CONATIVE. It's I promise it's not a made-up word, but it's not one we use very often. Those are very much like kind of our hard wiring traits, like our core needs that don't really change. They might shift a little over time. Those are the ones that we primarily use for like role fit. Like, for example, if you looked at my profile, you would know there's just no amount of money in the world you could pay me to be your accountant. I would be terrible at it, and I would hate it. And so we can see that instantaneously looking at somebody's results. But then there are 4 additional dimensions that look at people's emotional world, their cognitive styles, and like decision-making processes. And so we call those just standalone attributes. And they give us a whole lot more nuance than what you'd see out of typical frameworks, like a Big 5 or a DISC or anything like that.
Yes, and I think that brings up another piece there as far as the cognitive style. I mean, there's a lot of neurodiversity in the world today. I mean, and a matter of fact, there's a lot of uncapped talent there, where we have people that maybe have ADD or dyslexic, or a variety of different. They're on the spectrum, for instance, and maybe they're not be able to get hired. Will this tool help kind of get through or cut through that noise?
Yes, and I love that that's true. Like these, when you're looking at a chart of these dots, left or right, low or high or whatever it is, there's still no correlation with neurodiversity. My son is on the spectrum. I've got ADHD to the max, and there's just no way you can tell looking at the results. And in fact, if we could tell, that would actually be a legal liability. So, and interestingly enough, like validation round 1, one of the attributes we were measuring actually was pointing to that a little bit. It was what we called social intuition, and combined with another one, we're like, oh, this is dangerous, and we took it out. But yeah, I mean, there are stories of this tool being used to find hidden talent, where no matter what your neuro divergence is, no matter what your socioeconomics are, the chart is the chart, and it's going to match somebody who's a neurotypical billionaire, and like, so hey, this person has potential for this initiative, this project, this role. This company at the stage that we're in, whatever it might be, And then we get to find that hidden potential and have those conversations, which also further allows not just to like avoid the bias, but also to expand our search beyond somebody who already has the skills and experience. Because even when somebody does come in with a certain set of skills, they have to relearn those skills in our organization's way of doing things anyway. And so if I need this particular, now I'm not talking about like a brain surgeon. Like a brain surgeon better have that skill.
Yeah.
that's not what we're playing. But most roles can learn the skills necessary in a short amount of time if they're wired for that role.
So what about, can a tool like this be used to really pair up the best employee with a particular or client, for instance? So let's say in a sales situation, and maybe you notice that the sales the prospect has these type of behavioral traits, and is it can you use your tool to kind of pair up the best salesperson or the best account manager, for instance?
Yeah, the caveat, the trick is that you have to get your client or prospect to take the assessment, and that's not always easy. But we have, for example, CPA firms and PR firms, brand agencies, that it's a pretty easy ask. Right? Hey, take this 10, maybe 12-minute assessment, and that's going to help us know who to pair you with. It's going to help us capture your voice, because we're a brand agency or whatever. And then it becomes that human cheat sheet for them to interact with, pair up internally, 100%. Now, if you're selling widgets, I don't know how you would get your prospect to take an assessment. So that'd be a little trickier. But hey, if you can figure it out, it's kind of an unfair advantage.
Right. Now we began the conversation with talking about how resumes are garbage. They're out of date. It's still a tool that is being used and so forth. But how does your system work in coordination with those types of assets, or is it separate and completely?
So the whole resume thing. I mean, we've known that resumes have been broken for a long time. That's why ATS is out there, scan through and try to filter out and everything like that. And that's been bad for decades. Not to mention, I mean, I think it was that you mentioned Harvard Business Review, and I think it was either them or Gallup did an official study showing like 74% of people admit to lying on their resume. Which is outrageous, right? And so that whole system has been broken for a while, and it has been amplified by AI. I mean, ChatGPT wrote just about every resume that makes it into our inbox these days. So how in the world do we trust that and make decisions off of it? It's completely broken. And so really, our tool has no way of importing a resume unless you you can upload a file, but it doesn't store it on anybody's record because we just don't care. If we need an API tie into your enterprise ATS or HR, okay, we can do that and send some data. But really, it's a standalone tool that it doesn't. We just don't care about the resume.
Okay. So as I know that your tool has been pressure tested with a lot of companies. Have you found a best way for this tool to be adopted into the organization?
It depends on the size. A lot. I'm part of some like CEO networks, and we're growing like wildfire in those arenas where you're talking 20 to 100 employees, because that's that entrepreneurial spirit, and people are more forward thinking. They're willing to do something innovative and like that they haven't done before. And with those organizations, it's pretty easy. We do the typical onboarding and training. We invite as many people as it makes sense to get an understanding of the science and the tool, and then just hit go. And they kind of have free reign to explore, use the AI in creative ways and all that. With larger organizations, we do a little more systematic approach, where it's like we'll do here's our ELT. We're going to start with the executives, do some executive sessions, because sometimes there's some shuffling around that needs to happen. Then we go to HR and we say, all right, here's how we're going to use this for hiring. So it's a lot more segmented. And then we'll do a company-wide workshop where we go, all right, we're not going to dive into these 8 attributes. That's way over people's heads. So we have some other tools. We actually have like these animal archetypes. Insights discovery is a really cool assessment competitor, I guess, out there. They do colors. I'm a yellow, I'm a green, a blue, red, whatever it might be. Our version of that with 4 is just animals, and they all mean something. Yeah. And of course, it's high level, right? It doesn't have much nuance, but it's common language, which is really helpful. Like, oh my gosh, you're such a dolphin, and like people just know what that means after a workshop, and it becomes really helpful culture language.
Yeah. That sounds great. It sounds like a lot of fun, for sure.
It is.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jason, as we're kind of coming to a close in our conversation, is there certain things that you would want our leaders to be thinking about as we come into 2026 and using AI and tools like this in their practice?
Yeah, I mean, completely separate from even an interest in using a product like Aptive Index. I would say that as we dive more into AI, this sounds maybe a stretch at first, but I think the mindset that leaders need to have is curiosity about people. Because the more we lean on these data tools for writing emails or coaching employees or having strategy sessions or whatever, the more we're disconnecting from the human element. The more we use AI for our own uses, like, oh, I have this political opinion, or all those things pull us away from the human element and into our own little bubble.
Yeah.
And so I think just remaining curious about other people's perspectives and experiences, really implementing empathy, perspective taking, I think is just paramount right now. We have to keep the human element at the forefront.
Agreed. So, Jason, if a leader out there wants to learn more about Aptive and ARIA, how ARIA can be something that help them, what's the best way for them to learn more?
The website, aptiveindex.com. If you want to track me down, go for it. There's a million Jason Carrolls, but Jason P. Carroll. If you throw that in there, you'll find me pretty easily. LinkedIn, it's the linkedin.com/in/Jason P. Carroll. Connect with me there, send me a DM, and we can chat.
Great. All right, for everybody listening in, I mean, today it was an easy case to make, but resumes definitely are a weak proxy for performance and retention, behavioral fit, that kind of stuff, and we just need to up the game. It's time. It's been broken for a long time, as Jason mentioned. It's time to do what's right for our people and for all those candidates out there that need to be treated fairly. And there's ways to use AI wisely and effectively. And with the proper guardrails and a tool like this, it's a game changer. So, Jason, thank you truly for challenging the audience on this topic and really informing us on how artificial intelligence can be a true asset in understanding people and having leaders understand their people better. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. And for our listeners, if this episode helped, please subscribe, rate, and share with a colleague that you have. And please ask yourself one question this week. What behavior actually predicts success in a given role? And that might be tough to find out and on your own, but a tool like this, ARIA, can help you sort that out. So we'll see you next week on the People Strategy Forum. Thank you, everyone. Take care.